If you're anything like me, natural history illustration really excites you. I adore natural history illustration, but I confess I don't actually know much about it. I just know whenever I happen to come across natural history illustrations, I really love staring at them for a long time. I just think they're beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. They're so detailed, but they're reeking of history. You can practically smell them, even in digital format. You can smell those old pages of a book, for example. I'm going to read every single page. The Birds of Australia in 7 volumes. John Gould. FRS. I'm not sure what FRS stands for. Maybe I'll look it up. One second. FRS in someone's letters after their name mean. Oh, it stands for the Fellow of the Royal Society. It is considered one of the highest honours a scientist can achieve. Well, okay, very good. Fellow of the Royal Society. Okay, so let's have a look. So this was published by the author in 1848. Quite a long time ago. To Her Most Gracious Majesty Victoria, Queen of Great Britain and Ireland, this work on the birds of Australia is, with her royal permission, dedicated by Her Majesty's most obedient and faithful subject and servant, John Gould. Wow, we really did used to pile it on, didn't we, back in the day? Still, this got him rich, apparently. Anyways, what do I know? I'm just an Australian reading this out loud. List of subscribers. Her Most Gracious. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a very loud magpie singing to me. It's actually quite lovely, but hopefully this voice cancelling actually removes most of it. I'll put it in later, maybe. But for now, it's actually distracting me more than you can probably even hear it. Honestly, he just keeps singing to me. It sounds like this. Okay, that wasn't very good of me, but I tried. I'll try one more time. Oh, goodness. I'm a bit out of practice with whistling. Whistling. It's a difficult word to say sometimes. Whistling. Okay, back to the topic. This is quite something. Her Most Gracious Majesty the Queen. These are the people who subscribed. Now, I believe they subscribed with money. These are paid subscribers, shall we say. In fact, these were the early influencer sponsors, or I don't know. All right, I'll just be quiet. His Royal Highness, the Prince Albert. His Majesty, the King of Prussia. His Majesty, the King of the French. His Majesty, the King of Denmark. His Majesty, the King of Sardinia. His Majesty, the King of the Belgians. All these kings. His Imperial and Royal Highness, the Grand Duke of Tuscany. His Imperial Highness, the Duke of Leuchtenberg. His Royal Highness, the Grand Duke of Hesse-Darmstadt. His Highness, the Prince Maximilian David. Prince Maximilian David, I want to say. His Highness, the Prince of Canino. His Highness, the Prince of Dessling. Oh my goodness. And then there's a whole bunch of, not quite so famous, but maybe famous, other subscribers. There is quite a lot. One might say he had real customers. Look at that. Now, What did these subscribers get? Let's go ask AI. What did the subscribers get? Oops, I think I made a whoopsie. What did John Gould's subscribers get? Okay, this is better. Just pop this on screen because maybe it'd be nice for you to read it too. Okay, according to Gemini, John Gould, often called the Birdman, was a prolific 19th century ornithologist and publisher who specialised in lavish, large-format folio books. Because his projects were incredibly expensive to produce, he operated on a subscription model. Subscribers to John Gould's works generally received the following. Number 1, delivery in parts. Rather than receiving a finished book all at once, subscribers received parts at regular intervals. The schedule. For works like The Birds of Australia, a part was typically issued every few months. Contents. Every part usually contained several hand-coloured lithographic plates, along with accompanying descriptive text. Assembly. These parts were delivered in temporary folders or wrappers. Subscribers had to wait until the entire series was finished, which could take over 8 years, before they received the final titles, introductions, and instructions for binding. Wow, that's amazing. Hand-coloured lithographic plates. Okay, the primary draw for subscribers was the artwork, Artistry. Each plate was a hand-coloured lithograph, often using heightened techniques like gum arabic to give the feathers a lifelike sheen or metallic lustre. Most of Gould's major works were imperial folio size, roughly 22 by 15 inches, making them massive, impressive display pieces. Rarity. Only a few hundred sets of each title were typically printed. For example, only 250 copies of The Birds of Australia were ever published. Scientific discovery. Subscribers were often the first people in the Western world to see illustrations of newly discovered species. Oh my goodness, that is exciting. In The Birds of Australia alone, Gould described 328 species that were completely unknown to Western science at the time. Wow. Gould would use the subscription funds to travel to locations like Australia to collect specimens and observe habitats, ensuring the accuracy of what the subscribers received. Number 4, high financial value. A subscription was a major investment. In the mid-1800s, a subscription to The Birds of Australia apparently cost about £115, an enormous sum at the time. My goodness, that is an enormous sum. Even I know that was an enormous sum back in the day. Because of the limited print runs and the prestige of Gould's name, these volumes became immediate status symbols and family heirlooms. Wow, that's amazing. Typical subscriptions costs. The Birds of Australia, 681 plates, £115. Monograph of the Hummingbirds, that was only £78, but it was half the number of plates. And The Birds of Europe, similar price, but 448 plates. Okay, so that's that. Moving on. Now we know what a subscriber is. Very interesting. But to scroll down, page 14, and I'm still scrolling the general index, but I'm up to G, so that's something. I'll keep going. Oh, I think I went past something. Oh dear, I really did go too far. Okay, here we go. Preface. Now, I'll try reading it direct from this page, but I've got the Project Gutenberg website just in case this is too hard to read, but you know what? It kind of looks okay. Let me just hit the plus button. Oof. I don't know if that's too big for me to read, but it might be nicer for you. I'm not sure. We'll try this. So this is the preface. Having in the summer of 18... Oh, look at that. See, I already can't read that. Okay, so I'm on the Gutenberg.org version of this document now so that I can actually read it. But you can see that you would be following it along with me if we did it this way, so because I'd be able to highlight it. So you tell me, do you like to watch me highlighting it, or do you just like this version of it? Let's have a look. How about I start reading and we see how we go. Having in the summer of 1837 brought my work on the birds of Europe to a successful termination, I was naturally desirous of turning my attention to the ornithology of some other region. Now, you've already noted I found it quite difficult to highlight at the same time. That's actually called multitasking. I think I'll just do it for what I can handle, just to help me know my place. Because if you look at this, I've got... This is like an enormous big paragraph. I don't think we do that anymore, unless it's... Yeah, no, look. Then there's another... Look at that. Actually indenting paragraphs like the good old days in print books. You forget about that when you read on digital screens all the time. But yeah, that's just one big paragraph. So I'm going to have to highlight just to get through this and not lose my way. So let's go back. Here we go. Oh, did I even read that whole sentence? Oh, let's do it again. Having in the summer of 1837 brought my work on the birds of Europe to a successful termination, I was naturally desirous of turning my attention to the ornithology of some other region, and a variety of concurring circumstances induced me to select that of Australia, the birds of which, though invested with the highest degree of interest, had been almost entirely neglected. Well, my goodness. Dr. Shaw, in his Zoology of New Holland, had devoted a few plates to the subject, from specimens collected by Sir Joseph Banks during the first voyage of Captain Cook. The birds of New Holland, by the way, New Holland is what Australia used to be called before it was British branded. Back when the Dutch found us. The birds, I think so. Anyway, don't quote me. I'm not a historian, but that's my understanding. I might become a historian, by the way. Oh my goodness, I could actually really develop specialist knowledge. If this journal works out, if you actually like me doing this learning live time with you and reading to you, I'm actually quite excited. Okay, anyway, back to the point. The Birds of New Holland by Lewin comprised not more than 26 plates, and figures and descriptions of a few species were given in the earlier voyages of Philip, White and Collins, and the more recent one of King. At a subsequent period, oops, look at that, I can't do that. You know, sometimes your tongue just gets all tied up. It's a little hard to speak. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to find the end of this sentence and I still can't find it. Don't move down the screen. Here it is. I think that's one sentence. Oh my goodness, how does anybody do this? This is going to be really fun. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing so I can have a van life. At a subsequent period, the late Mr. Viggers and Dr. Horsfield commenced an elaborate memoir on the collection of Australian birds in the possession of the Linnean Society, but unfortunately they did not proceed farther than the Melephagridae, and the non-completion of their labours is the more to be regretted, inasmuch as the Linnean Society's collection of Australian birds, at that time the finest extant, comprised many species collected by Mr. Brown during his voyage with the celebrated navigator Flinders, and was moreover enriched with some interesting notes by the late Mr. George Cayley, by whom the collection was chiefly formed. Oh, my goodness, that Cayley might be the same man who I've got. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm getting excited. I wonder if it is. I'll learn in time if it is. By whom the collection was, and maybe you don't even know what I'm talking about, but you will later if I've edited this weirdly. No, I said I wouldn't edit. Okay, that's it. No editing. You get what you get, because this could be very time consuming and I might get like 12 views. Okay. I promise I'll get through the rest of this sentence with no further interruptions. So, go back to that, and moreover enriched with some interesting notes by the late Mr. George Cayley, by whom the collection was chiefly formed. Oh, that was one sentence. So, it wasn't one big sentence. That was the sentence. So, all right, fine. Now I'll read the next one. Descriptions of many Australian birds were also included in the works of Latham, Shaw, Cuvier and Villiot, as well as in several of the recent French voyages of discovery. Still, no general work on the subject had been undertaken, and nearly all that had been recorded by the various writers above enumerated had reference almost exclusively to the productions of New South Wales and Van Diemen's Land, these being almost the only explored portions of that great country. By the way, Van Diemen's Land is Tasmania in today's terminology. In the absence, then, of any general work on the birds of Australia, the field was comparatively a new one, and of no ordinary degree of interest, from the circumstance of its being one of the finest possessions of the British Crown, and from its natural productions being as remarkable for the anomalous nature of their forms as for their beauty and the singularity of their habits. Wow, this is how we used to write. So, I'll tell you what he meant. He meant, by the way, it's a relatively new field, this Birds of Australia thing, and people might have a very big interest in it. The Australian birds are completely weird. They're beautiful and they're very unique in how they live their lives. Okay, I'll move on. Now I'm going to need you, dear viewer, to tell me whether my sideways chats send you crazy and I'll cut them out or not. At the moment, honestly, I'm just having fun. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. I mean, I won't be able to do it if I don't have fun, but I also think maybe I'll really enjoy making it perfect and not doing my little interludes in between all the sentences. I don't actually know which way it's going to roll at this point. So anyway, let's keep going. In the attempt to supply this desideratum, desideratum? I guess that means, let's ask, what does desideratum mean? What does desideratum mean? Okay, let's see what Gemini says. In a general sense, a desideratum, and the plural for that is desiderata, good to know, is something that is needed or wanted because it is considered essential. Oh, I forgot you like to see things. Or highly desirable. Okay, it's something that is needed or wanted because it is considered essential or highly desirable. It comes from the Latin word, I was thinking decision, but it's desire, of course. Desiderare. Desiderare. I sound Japanese. Desidere? Desidere. Maybe they don't say rare. I learnt Japanese, so. Rare. Desiderare. That's how you'd say it in Japanese. In case you wanted to be a weirdo like me. Meaning to desire. Okay, however, because you are looking into John Gould and his historical bird prints, isn't it good to have context? Because I asked this question in the same chat from before. Okay, anyway, however, because you're looking into John Gould and historical bird prints, the word has a very specific meaning in the world of 19th century collecting. Oh, really? Okay, number one, the collector's want list. In the context of natural history and rare books, a desideratum is a specific item missing from a collection that a collector is actively searching for. Oh my goodness, well that makes sense. If a museum had almost every Gould folio, his name's quite ghoulish, isn't it? Anyway, Gould folio, but was missing the birds of New Guinea, that book was their desideratum. Geez, I really hope I'm saying that word right. Collectors would often publish lists of desiderata to let dealers and other scientists know which specimens or plates they needed to complete a set. Oh my goodness, I am so glad I looked this up. Never thought about it, but that makes total sense and very cool. So, the desiderata of science during Gould's era. The word was often used in scientific journals to describe gaps in human knowledge. If a scientist, by the way, in case it needs to be said, I'm not AI, you must know that you can surely tell I'm not AI by now, I hope. But later, you're going to have to defend me against people because I'm going to get so good at this. These voiceovers are going to get so amazing. People might think I'm not real. And you will need to defend me and say you were there from the very first video and you know I'm a human. And you know what? Just for that, I might even have to film myself just briefly buried inside a video, definitely towards the end, so that you can see, and I'll show proof of my humanness. Humanness. Anyway, proof of human. I will be doing that. Okay? But one reason why I'm not going on screen on my face all the time is, honestly, you'll get more volume out of me if I can just turn the mic on rather than turn the camera on. Turning on the camera means I have to have my hair dyed, I have to put lipstick on. It's a voiceover, but occasionally I'll do it for you, okay? If you want it, obviously. Once you've seen it once, you might not want it again. But actually, that's not true. I'm not too bad. I'm fine. It's okay, and I'm not negative or self-critical either, because it matters how you speak to yourself. Did you know? Yeah, it does. Okay. Now, where was I? Okay, the desiderata of science. During Gould's era, the word was often used in scientific journals to describe gaps in human knowledge. If a scientist knew a bird existed, but no one had ever found its nest or eggs, the description of those eggs was labelled a desideratum, a missing piece of the scientific puzzle. Oh, this is so cool. Honestly, I'm really excited at this topic. I didn't know if it'd have enough for me to keep my interest, honestly, because I love the artwork. I didn't know what the words and the terminology was going to do to me in my head and my level of excitement. But I have to say, the further I get into this, the more excited I'm getting. Okay, number 3. Literary context. You may also recognise the word from the famous prose poem Desiderata by Max Ehrmann. Oh, see, we are going to learn so much history together. And I may learn how to stop saying gonna with my Queensland accent and say, even though I'm living in New South Wales at the moment, I grew up in central Queensland. You're lucky you don't have to listen to that particular vernacular. Or is that the word? Dialect. Whatever. Anyway, the point is, I think if I do this long enough, I'll stop saying gonna and I'll learn to say going to. And you tell me which one you'd prefer. Because I try not to judge. I mean, who's to judge really? Where it's someone else's value system to prefer going to than gonna. Gonna, if you actually think about it, gonna. It's actually quite beautiful. But we've just culturally judged it as being lower, haven't we? Anyway, whatever. You will decide. I mean, obviously, within reason, I'll always be myself, but when I could go either way 50-50, you guys decide, okay? Often associated with the line, go placidly amid the noise and the haste. Oh, actually, I do know that line. Oh, but I didn't know the title or that poet. But we are going to learn. Shall I Google that person? No, we're getting too off track. We're trying to get back to the preface. Were we? Yeah, we're trying to get back to the preface. In this context, it refers to the desired things or essential qualities one should strive for to live a virtuous and peaceful life. Well, that's the literary context. Well, we're not in that context, remember? We are in the Gould context. So, singular, it's a desideratum, so one missing item. Plural is desiderata, a list of missing items. Synonyms, requirement, essential, objective, or the missing link. In the world of rare Australian birds, finding a clean original plate of a rare species, like a night parrot, would have been a major desideratum for a 19th century collector. Well, that was great. I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. Okay, so here we were. We're back to what this person who wrote the preface, because let's assume it was Gould who wrote the preface. You know, sometimes prefaces are written by someone else. I haven't actually scrolled to the end. We can be surprised. I'm going to assume, though, that he wrote it because he's talking about in the attempt to supply this desideratum. So we'll assume it's John Gould for now. We might be told otherwise by the time we get to it. I'll keep reading. In the attempt to supply this desideratum, I commenced publishing from the materials then accessible, but soon found, from the paucity of information extant upon the subject, extant? That it could not be executed. You can see it's been like 20 years since I read out loud. There you go. I used to read as a child a lot. I've read so many books, and I would read out loud sometimes at school, right? But who's read out loud ever since school or even high school? Maybe we did, maybe we didn't then. Yeah, we probably did. Anyways, I haven't done it in a million years. Oh, yes, I have read to children and babies, but I mean, I wasn't reading them this kind of material, was I? So it was a little easier. Anyway, that it could not be executed in a manner that would be satisfactory to my own mind or commensurate with the exigencies of science. I therefore determined to proceed to Australia and personally investigate, so far as a stay of 2 years would allow, the habits and manners of its birds in a state of nature. Accordingly, in May 1838, I left England, provided by the liberality of government. Oh, yes, the government needs to give you that liberality, doesn't it? As we're all so painfully aware. With letters from Lord Glenelg, at that time Secretary of State for the Colonies, Sir George Grey Bart, and Gordon Gardner, Esquire, of the Colonial Office, goodness me, recommending me. I promise I'll get better at all of this, I promise. Just hang with me. And by the way, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Recommending me to the countenance and protection of the various governors, and requesting them to afford me such aid and assistance in furtherance of my objects as they might have it in their power to render. Similar favours were also granted me by the authorities of the Admiralty, who, through their Secretary, Sir John Barrow, directed the captains and commanders of Her Majesty's ships and vessels employed on the coasts of Australia to further my views, by giving myself and my assistant a passage to such part of the coasts as either of us might be desirous of visiting, only stipulating— oh my goodness, I had to swallow. I'm sorry, I don't think I'll ever mention that again. Only stipulating that the ships under their command should not be detained on any parts of the coast they were not ordered to visit. His late Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex, in his capacity of President of the Royal Society, was pleased to favour me with a letter addressed to the authorities, civil and military, of Her Majesty's colonies, recommending me to their kind offices and protection, and he felt assured that my exertions would materially promote the interests of natural history. I was also under considerable obligations to the kindness of Captain Washington, R.N., at that time Secretary of the Royal Geographical Society. I nearly lost my place, so I better highlight it. Who furnished me with introductions to Captains Sir John Franklin and Sir Gordon Bremer, R.N., and other influential persons. Having thus acknowledged the facilities afforded me by the home authorities, it becomes my pleasing duty to state that their recommendations and wishes were responded to in the warmest manner by Captain Sir John Franklin, R.N., Governor of Van Diemen's Land, Sir John Gips, I don't know, you tell me, Governor-General of New South Wales, no less, Lieutenant Colonel Gowler, Governor of South Australia, John Hutt, Esquire, Governor of Western Australia, and Captain, I presume that's apostrophe for MacArthur, do you think? I'm not sure. Captain Martha, otherwise, kind of funny, I don't think so. I don't think it's that. Captain M. Arthur, maybe it's a typo. Surely not. Commandant of Port Essington, all of whom rendered me every assistance compatible with the instructions under which they were acting. Oh my goodness, this is like name dropping for politicians, I think, and also to say you didn't do anything naughty in doing all of this. I should be wanting, however, both in courtesy and gratitude, did I not especially acknowledge the warm friendship and the many acts of genuine kindness which I received at the hands of my valued friends, Sir John and Lady Franklin, who, besides facilitating my views in every way, both publicly and privately, with the most generous hospitality, received myself and family into their house, where Mrs. Gould and my eldest son, who had accompanied us, remained for nearly 10 months, while I pursued my researches in various parts of Van Diemen land and the continent of Australia, and it is only by those who, like myself, have had the advantage of residing in the bosom of this amiable family, that the kindness of their nature and the goodness of their hearts can be duly appreciated, and which can never be erased from my memory. That's really nice. I must acknowledge, not less gratefully, the many acts of kindness rendered to me by Sir George and Lady Gibbs during my stay in Sydney. After exploring Van Diemen's Land, the islands in Bass Straits, South Australia and New South Wales, into the interior of the country, I penetrated to the distance of nearly 400 miles from the coastline. I dispatched my able assistant, Mr. Gilbert, to explore the western and northern portions of the country, and returned to England in 1840. I immediately commenced the work de novo, and the result of my labours is now before the public. It fortunately happened at the commencement and during the progress of the work, Her Majesty's ships the Beagle, under the command of Captain Wickham and Stokes, the Britomart, under Captain Stanley, the Fly, under Captain Blackwood, and the Pelorus, under Captain Chambers, were employed in surveying the northern and northwestern coasts of Australia, and the Erebus and Terror, under Captain Sir James C. Ross, in a voyage of discovery towards the South Pole. While engaged in the performance of their arduous duties, the officers of those vessels succeeded in procuring many interesting novelties, which, with the greatest liberality, were communicated to me for the present work, whereby its value has been much enhanced. This liberality will be found duly acknowledged in the histories of the species, for the use of which I am indebted to the kindness of B. Binoy, Esquire, Surgeon R.N. Lieutenant Emery, R.N., Commander J.M.R. Ince, R.N. I don't know what R.N. stands for. It must be a thing. I presume it's not registered nurse. Edward Ring, Esquire, Purser, R.N., Dr. Robertson, and Robert McCormick, Esquire, Surgeons R.N. and John. Here's this M apostrophe again. McGilvray, Esquire. After spending 2 years in Western and Northern Australia, Mr. Gilbert returned to England in September 1841, bringing with him the result of his labours, which proved of sufficient value and importance to induce me to believe that much yet remained to be discovered in those countries, and to direct him to return thither. I love that word. What a classic, thither, which he accordingly did in the ensuing spring. And after again visiting Swan River and sedulously exploring the interior so far as practicable, he proceeded to Sydney, and unfortunately for him, allowed his love of science, in the advancement of which no one was more ardent, to induce him to join Dr. Leichhardt in his overland journey from Moreton Bay to Port Essington. I have to say, one thing we just don't do anymore is long sentences like that. But boy, oh boy, am I going to have a top up in my vocabulary after this work. It's really good to be reminded of words like sedulously. Okay, can't say I ever used it. Oh my goodness, now I'm going to have to look up what it means. Let's ask Gemini. What am I asking? Sedulously. Meaning? Let's see what it says. To be sedulous means to show great dedication, diligence and persistence in an endeavour. That's what I'm going to be with this channel. My foot's caught in the microphone cord. Microwave. I think I'm getting fatigue. I'm going to have to get my fitness up, aren't I? If I'm going to give you long watch, long viewing, long listening videos. Okay. And by the way, if you edit a video that's like 3 hours long, did you realise that to actually watch it again is going to be a total 6 hours already? Do you see how the days go past with YouTubers who make long videos? Like, you really need to have a very efficient editing strategy. Okay, back to this. If you do something sedulously, you are doing it with constant, careful application and a refusal to give up. Oh, yes, this is exactly, this is so good. I'm so grateful I looked this up. It is a more formal and intense version of hard working. Well, that I am. Key characteristics of sedulous behaviour: perseverance, continuing a task even when it becomes tedious or difficult; meticulousness, paying extreme attention to detail to ensure the job is done perfectly; consistency, working steadily over a long period rather than in short, erratic bursts. Well, I think this was fortuitous for me to stumble across this particular word today for you all in this very first video of mine. Etymology. The word comes from the Latin sedulus, meaning busy or attentive, which is derived from the phrase de sedolo, literally without guile. Originally, it implied that someone was working honestly and sincerely. Examples in context. In literature, he sedulously avoided any mention of his past, fearing it would ruin his new reputation. Oh, I can relate. In science, I'm joking, I can't relate that much, not as much as you think. The researchers sedulously recorded every minute change in the chemical reaction over the course of 6 months. Did you like how I knew how to say that word? It's not minute, it's minute. And to know it, you've got to read and think ahead to get it right. English is tricky like that. In professional life, she worked sedulously to master the nuances of maritime law before her first big case. Well, geez, I really hope she did too. Comparisons with similar words. While these words are synonyms, oh my goodness, synonyms, they carry slightly different flavours. So sedulous emphasises long-term, tireless persistence and carefulness. That, my friends, is what you will be getting from me. Assiduous emphasises constant presence and devoted attention to a task. Diligent emphasises being thorough and proactive in one's duties. Industrious emphasises being energetic and productive. Busy, like an industry. Okay. Given our previous conversation, you could say that John Gould sedulously pursued the documentation of Australian wildlife. His ability to produce, funny you should say that. We could say that because he said it. The irony of this, how meta is this all? His ability to produce thousands of hand-coloured plates while managing hundreds of subscribers required exactly this kind of tireless, detailed dedication. Well, I am just so happy that I gave Gemini some feedback. Okay, I'll pop that over here and we'll get back to reading. I am so pleased that we did that. Where was the word? Oh, it was up here. And sedulously exploring the interior so far as practicable. Oh, it was Mr. Gilbert who was sedulous. He wasn't even talking about himself. Oh, Johnny Gould. He was talking about his what did he say? He was assistant. He called him something. Oh, anyway, you'll know. You can rewind. I have to keep going. Okay. On this expedition, he, as usual, displayed his wonted zeal and activity until the 28th of June, when, the party being treacherously attacked by the natives, his valuable life was sacrificed. This is tragic. I lost a most able coadjutor. I presume that means a co-adjudicator kind of a thing. Coadjutor. And science has to deplore one of her most devoted servants. Fortunately, however, in despite of the many difficulties and dangers which beset the party during the remainder of their journey, his journals and notes, together with the specimens he had been able to procure, were preserved and transmitted to me by Dr. Leichhardt, and proved of valuable assistance in determining the range of many of the species. Now, hang on a minute, I'm very confused. So who did all this work? Mr. Gilbert and then John Gould has taken ownership of it? Have I misread that? Let's see. My own researches commenced immediately after passing the equator, from whence, throughout the entire route to Australia, I omitted no... Okay, so he did do his own work. Okay, false alarm. I omitted no opportunity of studying the habits and collecting the different species of the oceanic birds that came under my notice. These observations were again resumed on my return to England, and as the outward passage was by the Cape of Good Hope and the homeward one by Cape Horn, they extended around the globe and, as will be seen in the course of the work, have led to some important results. And here I must acknowledge my obligations to the various captains with whom I sailed, namely Captain McKellar of the Parsee, or Parsee, which vessel conveyed me to Van Diemen's Land, Captain Harding of the Black Joke, in which I proceeded from Launceston to Adelaide, Captain Fell of the Catherine Stewart Forbes, in which I returned from Adelaide to Hobart, Captain Gilchrist of the Potentate, in which I sailed from Hobart Town to Sydney, and Lieutenant Mallard, RN, of the Kinnear, which brought me to England, all of whom, and I apologise, I did say excuse me, but I'll try not to do that. It just popped up. I'm actually really hungry. My stomach's been growling because we've been talking for quite a long time now. I've lost track of time and it's well past my lunchtime. I might have to pause the video and go eat lunch so I can stop making those extra noises that are distracting me. Okay, testing. Can you hear me? Yes, I think you can. Well, I don't really know. I think I need to press record on that motive stuff too. 1 second. Who knows? I don't know what I'm doing, let's face it. I'm learning as I go here. Okay. Oof. Now, where were we? Because I had to stop to eat lunch and now I've lost all my windows. I'm a little bit perturbed by that. Okay, back to this. Let's see. So I think I left you mid-sentence somewhere in this potentate. I remember reading that. Because who wouldn't? who could forget reading potentate? Okay, still, it's been hours for me and it's been merely a few seconds for you. And here I must acknowledge my obligations to the various captains with whom I sailed, namely Captain McKellar of the Parsee, which vessel conveyed me to Van Diemen's Land, Captain Harding of the Black Joke, interesting, in which I proceeded from Launceston to Adelaide, Captain Fell of the Catherine Stewart Forbes, in which I returned from Adelaide to Hobart Town. Hobart Town, it's so cute. Captain Gilchrist of the Potentate, in which I sailed from Hobart Town to Sydney, and Lieutenant Mallard, RN. Maybe RN means Royal Navy. I wonder if I can guess this right before I look it up on AI. Of the Kinnear, which brought me to England, all of whom rendered me every assistance in their power, and the use of a boat and crew, whenever the weather would permit, of one being lowered, by which means I was enabled to obtain nearly 40 species of petrel, what that is, being the finest collection of the Procellaridae ever brought together. Procellaridae. That's how it's said, whatever that is too. Oh, now, before I go any further, I want to admit that I went online because I thought, well, what am I even going to call this video? I don't know. And by the way, to get views on YouTube, you kind of need to get your titles right. And one of the titles I was thinking about had to do with, a rare and valuable book that this is, even though it's public domain and I'm reading it free of charge. Anyways, regardless, I searched how much is John Gould Birds of Australia worth? And this is what Google had to say on the matter. Original complete 8-volume sets of John Gould's The Birds of Australia, 1840 to 1869, are exceptionally rare and valuable, often selling at auction for over 350,000 Australian dollars. Individual hand-coloured lithographs from the series typically sell for hundreds to over $1,000 depending on the species and condition. Complete original sets comprising the original 7 volumes plus the supplement, 681 plates, well, we know that from earlier, have realised prices between USD 250k and 350k. So individual original prints Authentic hand-coloured prints commonly sell on sites like blah 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 for between 700 and 1700, depending on the rarity of the bird. Ooh, rarity matters, just like with NFTs. That's an in-joke. Facsimiles and reprints. High-quality facsimiles, such as those by Hill House publishers, hold significant value as sets, while modern decorative reproductions on Etsy are worth less than $100. Well, factors influencing price include the rarity of the specific bird, the quality of the hand colouring, and whether the print is framed. All right, so good for you. Okay, so not cheap, I think's what we could take from that. All right, now let's go on. At the commencement of the work, it was not expected that it would prove so extensive as it has become, since not more than 300 species were then known, which number has now been increased by the united efforts of myself and those who have so kindly aided my views, to upwards of 600 species, among which are comprised many forms remarkable for their novelty, the anomalous character of their structure, and the singularity of their habits. So singular. Quite singular. Oh dear. I'm having so much fun. I hope you are. Such as the bowerbirds. Okay, now I've switched out the microphone a bit because when I came back from lunch, I got a bit fancy because I thought I'll start recording this audio straight into Descript instead of via OBS recording software. But I think the mic was a bit moist. It was a bit moist. I've also got my headphones on. I'm going to take them off. I don't think my headphones let me hear myself properly, so let me take them off. I just use the headphones to listen back to check that this audio is working for you. Okay, now I'm going to fix my hair. It's getting all everywhere. I've got long hair and it just gets in my eyes and my mouth, and you have to show it who's boss, really, at the end of the day. Get behind my ears. Now, let me fix this up a bit. What was I saying? Yes, the microphone. So now I'll try and you tell me which ones you like the best. That's why I'm doing these different things and they're not getting cut out of the edit. I want you to choose which one you like best for my voice. So this is the Shure M7 going directly into Descript, not via that Motive Mixer app, okay? So you'll be able to tell me, I'm giving you those technical details so that you can tell me specifically which audio you prefer. So this is my Shure M7, whatever it is, going straight into Descript and recording. So the other problem is I get a bit excited and I move forward, and so then I get even closer to the microphone, and I wonder if that's what made it wet before. It could have just been me breathing down the microphone way too closely. I mean, I don't know. It's difficult because I'm trying to look at the screen and because I get excited about these searches that I do. Anyway, well, back to this singularity of their habits. Oh, so beautiful. All right, let's go back to this. Such as the bowerbirds. Oh, that's right. Oh, I think I stopped the very first time at the thought of having to pronounce that. Okay. Patilonorinki. Oh my goodness. Tilonorinki? No. Tilonorinchi. I mean, come off it. That is really difficult for rookies. Tilonorinki. I'm going to say Tilonorinki and Chlamydare. There we go. My medical school days will become in handy after all. I did learn some Latin for the anatomy in med school. And that word definitely looks familiar. Not because I've personally had. Anyway, stop it, Anna. Okay. And the mound-raising birds. Oh, I just gave you my name. Oh. Taligella. I guess my identity is going to be uncovered. sooner or later. I was thinking, I wonder if I should do this channel anonymously. Oh dear. Anyway, Talagalla, Leipoa, and Megapodius. The singular runs, or bowers, of the Chlamyderae were considered by some explorers to be the cradles of the infants of the Aborigines, and the mounds of the Megapodius to be tumuli, errors which have been rectified in the present work. Well, I hope one day we learn what these mound-raising birds are. They sound interesting. It is not to be supposed. Do you prefer the text is at the bottom of where we've read, or probably right in the middle? Might be nice, hey? Actually, I can't see over my microphone if I do that, though. This is literally my first day on the job. It's my first day on the job, and I only started just before lunchtime. Actually, hours before lunchtime. And it's now 3:40 in Australia. It is not supposed to be... Okay, let me start again. I'll get it right for you this time. It is not supposed to be that an undertaking of such magnitude as the present could have been brought to a successful termination by the unaided efforts of a single individual, and I have therefore very great pleasure in stating that my views were most ably seconded by everyone with whom the nature of my investigations brought me in contact, but by none more than the Reverend Thomas James Ewing, who, besides manifesting the warmest friendship, has ever taken a special interest in promoting the success of the present work, nor must I omit to mention R.C. Gunn, Esquire, Lieutenant Breton, R.N., the Honourable Henry Elliot, aide-de-camp to the Governor, Lieutenant Friend R.N. and Captain Booth, all of Van Diemen's Land. In New South Wales, my best thanks are due to George Bennett Esquire, who, like Mr. Ewing, let's say Ewing, maybe it's Ewing, anyways, favoured me, I'm sure my British audience can tell me, favoured me with his warmest friendship and evinced an equal anxiety for the success of my undertaking. Evinced, that's gorgeous. The Misters James and William MacArthur, I think that's the Misters, James and William MacArthur of Campden, the Misters Stephen and Charles Coxon of Yarundi, Charles Throsby, Esquire of Bong Bong, oh my goodness, what is going on? Alexander and William S. Macleay Esquires, Captain P.P. King, and many others. How do they know their initials? We never know anybody's middle name initials these days, do we? Much valuable information has been communicated to me by George Grey, Esquire, now Governor of New Zealand, whose exertions during his expedition along the northwestern coasts of Australia were characterised by a degree of energy of character and perseverance but rarely equalled, whose ornithological collection, made during this arduous enterprise, although small, was by no means destitute of interest, and who, upon succeeding Colonel Gowler in the governorship of South Australia, found time amidst his multifarious occupations to devote considerable attention to natural history, and to send me some interesting drawings and other details respecting the mounds raised by the Leipoa and C. and Company, maybe? In South Australia, I received many acts of kind attention and assistance from my friend Captain Sturt, whom I accompanied on one of his expeditions into the interior, and I have much pleasure in acknowledging my obligations to Mr. Eyre, now Lieutenant Governor of New Zealand, and the late J.B. Harvey Esquire. This man knows a lot of very important people, doesn't he? And he's making sure he lets them all know, and lets us all know, of their importance to him. Interesting. Nor must I conclude my acknowledgments of the kindness of those who have rendered me their aid, without especially recording the liberality, he uses that word quite a lot, of the Right Honourable the Earl of Derby, who has at all times most readily submitted to my inspection every collection of which he has become the possessor, and allowed me the free use of any objects desirable for the enhancement of the birds of Australia. Neither is the kindness of His Highness the Prince of Canino, Sir W.M. Jardine, Bart. Oh, this is difficult. Robert Brown. Well, that's easy. Good old Bob. Saved me there. Professor Owen, H.E. Strickland, W. Yorrell, T.C. Eighton, J.J. Bennett, D.W. Mitchell, and E. Blythe, Esquires, forgotten by one whom they have ever been sedulous to oblige. Oh, that's our favourite word again. Look, it's kind of amazing. It's so nice to see. We studied that word today, didn't we? Yes, we did. My thanks are also due to the trustees, to J.E. Gray and J.R. Gray, Esquires, of the British Museum, and to the authorities of the Linnean and Zoological Societies of London, the Royal Museums of Berlin, Leyden and Paris, and the Museum at Sydney. Why do we not get Museum of Sydney? It's just the Museum at Sydney. It's kind of weird. Maybe it wasn't the Museum of Sydney yet. Maybe, I don't even know if we have a Museum of Sydney. I am also considerably indebted to my friend W.C.L. Martin, Esquire, author of many valuable works and papers on natural history, for the readiness with which his varied literary attainments and critical acumen have at all times been rendered, when solicited, to enhance the accuracy of my labours. Okay, very good. You must always be accurate in your labours. It's not easy to be accurate in your labours. I'm speaking from experience. And the failing of that, I mean. At the conclusion of my Birds of Europe, I had the pleasing duty of stating that nearly the whole of the plates had been lithographed by my amiable wife. That's right, that's what's so special. Would that I had the happiness of recording a similar statement with regard... Oh, I think you just heard my phone go off. Well, that's very unprofessional of me, isn't it? So, it goes on silent. That's the next rule for my recording sessions. Would that I had the happiness of recording a similar statement with regard to the present work, but such, alas, is not the case. It is having pleased the all-wise disposer of events. What in the world are we reading here? What? It is not the case. It having pleased the all-wise disposer of events to remove her from this sublunary world within one short year. Oh no! Does this... I think his wife died. To remove her from this sublunary world within one short year after our return from Australia. Is this for real? This is horrible. During her sojourn, in which country an immense mass of drawings. I don't think they mean country in the normal sense there. That's like clever. Both ornithological and botanical, which were made by her inimitable hand and pencil, and which has enabled Mr. H.C. Richter, to whom, after her lamented death, the execution of the plates was entrusted, to perform his task in a manner highly satisfactory to myself, and I trust equally so to the subscribers. The colouring, as in the case of the Birds of Europe and my other works, has been entirely executed by Mr. Bayfield, to whose unwearied exertions and punctuality I must not fail to bear testimony, as well as to the minute accuracy, see what I did there, with which his labours have been performed. The printing of the plates by Messrs. Hullmandel and Walton, and the letterpress by Messrs. R. and J. E. Taylor, has also been equally satisfactory. Did he just let us know that the all-wise disposer of events, that's God? Fair enough, he wrote alas with an exclamation mark. Oh, that's so sad. So she did the birds of Europe. But it looks like Mr. H.C. Richter has worked on this. The colouring has always been by Mr. Bayfield. Okay. Well, it does get complicated. Sometimes I wish it might be easier just to do bullet points and bylines. Regardless, I wasn't around to be asked my opinion. Probably just as well. And I cannot refrain, let's move on, and I cannot refrain from speaking in the highest terms of my assistant, Mr. Edwin C. Prince, who has been with me from the commencement of my various works. I left him in charge of the whole of my affairs during my absence from England, with a perfect conviction that he would zealously exert himself for my interest, and the confidence I reposed in him has been fully realised, not only during my absence, but during the long period of 18 years. I tell you what, if you've had an assistant working with you for 18 years, that's a keeper. Pretty rare these days, I would suggest. But isn't that wonderful? You just go overseas and leave it all with your assistant. And I mean, there's no text messaging to keep them on track. Just incredible to be able to trust people. It's wonderful to remember these attributes of humans of the past. That the world cultivated that, didn't it? Okay, I'll keep reading. It was my most anxious wish that the unique and perfect collection of Australian birds, forming the originals of the present work, should have found a resting place in the National Museum of this country, insomuch as it comprised examples of both sexes of nearly every known species in various stages of plumage, each carefully labelled with its correct scientific appellation, the date when and the place where killed, the sex ascertained by dissection, and the colouring of the soft parts. Goodness me. The colouring of the soft parts caught me a bit by surprise. Plus also where they were killed. I was so ignorant up to this point. I was thinking he was just getting those things observed in nature and drawn by his wife and sketched by him actually and detailed by her, I think. But, and I think I learned that just from watching an ABC video just before I started this recording, by the way, if you've somehow missed that. But I didn't get to the part where we killed all these birds. Sorry about that. Well, I'm sorry. It's just what they did back in the day. It's not my bad. Okay, so back to the colouring of the soft parts. Besides which, it comprised the finest specimens I had been able to procure during the long period of 10 years, collected together at an expense of more than £2,000, and at the cost of 3 valuable lives, namely that of Mr. Gilbert, above referred to, that of Mr. Johnson Drummond, who was killed by a native while seeking for specimens in Western Australia, and that of a fine young man, one of the attendants assigned to me by Sir John Franklin, who was accidentally killed by the explosion of a gun he was removing from a boat when landing on one of the islands in Bass Straits. So this is where he's saying of all the people who died making this book, making this artwork. Oh, goodness. So one was killed by an Aborigine, one was killed by a gun explosion. What was the other one? Well, we don't know. We don't know what the other one died from. Regretting that I could not afford to make a donation of it, I addressed a letter to J.E. Gray, Esquire, the Chief Zoological Officer of the British Museum, in which, after stating that the entire collection amounted to nearly 600 species and upwards of 1,800 specimens, with the full complements of eggs, oh my goodness, of more than 300 species, I made the following offer. I mean, that's a real treasure trove, isn't it? I believe that in some instances the government has lent its aid and its support to works of such magnitude as the birds of Australia by taking a certain number of copies. Were this done in my own case, and not less than 25 copies were taken, I should be most happy to present to the museum both the collections above mentioned, but should such an arrangement be declined, then I beg to offer them to the trustees for the sum of £1,000. To my own, as well as to the regret of nearly every scientific man in Europe, my offer was declined by the trustees. Oh my goodness. Upon this circumstance, becoming known to Edward Wilson, Esquire, of Lidstip House, near Tenby in Pembrokeshire, that gentleman immediately purchased the entire collection for his brother, Dr. T.B. Wilson of Philadelphia in North America, whither it will be shortly removed, and where it will be at all times available for the purposes of science, and form a portion of perhaps the most extensive ornithological collection in the world. Well, I wonder if it is still available at all times for the purposes of science, don't you? Don't you wonder about that? Oh, should I go see? There's a lot to search though. Or maybe I'll just Control C and then I'm gonna pop it into. Okay, I've worked it out now. I think you can see that. There we go. Oh look, you're always going to see my name unless I was going to edit that out anyways. So I'm just putting in that exact statement, and then I'm just going to ask Gemini, did this happen? Where is it? Where is it now? Okay. That was probably one of my worst prompts. But looks like it understood me, because most humans aren't very good at prompting. Yes, this did happen. The collection mentioned in your text refers to the massive ornithological acquisitions made by Dr. Thomas Bellaby Wilson, which were indeed moved to Philadelphia and became the foundation for one of the most important bird collections in the world. Today, this collection is housed at the Academy of Natural Sciences of Drexel University, formerly the Academy of Natural Sciences of Philadelphia, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay, so what happened? In the mid-19th century, Dr. T.B. Wilson was a wealthy patron of the natural sciences. His most significant contribution occurred in the 1840s. So the Messina collection. In 1846, William's brother Edward purchased the famous bird collection of Prince Victor Massena, the Duke of Rivoli in Paris. This included approximately 12,500 specimens. The arrival, these birds were shipped to Philadelphia, where Dr. Wilson presented them to the Academy. Now, hang on a minute. This is what we were talking about. Combined with other acquisitions, such as the Gould collection of Australian birds. Maybe he says Gold for his name. Maybe it's John Gould. Maybe I've been saying Gould the whole time and it's Gold. How embarrassing. John Gould. Goodness, you'd think I'd remember. I did say I watched that ABC video about it. This is terrible. How could I do a whole... How many hours have I done? I don't know. I don't even know how to pronounce it. This is terrible. I'm going to pause the video right now and find out. Okay, I was gone for a couple of minutes, but you didn't notice. Oh, my goodness. At least I got it right. It is Gould. The ghoulish Gould is what it is. Bless. So, no need to panic. It's not gold, it's Gould. So, such as the Gould collection of Australian birds, Dr. Wilson added more than 25,000 specimens to the Academy's holdings. By 1850, it was arguably the largest and most complete ornithological collection in the world, surpassing even the major museums of Europe at the time. Where is it now? Yes, that's what our question was. The specimens remain... Okay, hang on a minute. Let's be more specific. Does it know them? Because this is a cold question straight out of nowhere. Let's just check. Scientific values. Their collection's not just a museum exhibit, but an active research archive. Bum bum bum. I'll just check. I'll just say it directly. I am interested only, for today at least, in the Gould specimens. Where are they? Okay. The John Gould specimens that Dr. T.B. Wilson purchased for Philadelphia are still there today. They are housed at the Academy of Natural Sciences of Drexel University, formerly the Academy of Natural Sciences of Philadelphia. Perfect. This is what I should have read in the first place. Key facts about the Gould specimens. The purchase in 1847, after the British Museum famously declined to buy them for £1,000, Gould, in a fit of frustration, accepted an offer for the same amount from Dr. Wilson. This resulted in the departure of nearly his entire collection of Australian birds from England, a loss many British naturalists regretted for decades. What is included? Well, I think Australia should regret it too, but nonetheless. What is included? The collection consists of roughly... That was a bit excitable, wasn't it? Sorry, I'll calm down and I'll try to be more consistent. The collection consists of roughly 1,800 to 12,000 specimens. It includes nearly every species of bird known in Australia at the time, many of which were the very specimens Gould would use to describe and illustrate his landmark work, The Birds of Australia. Okay, so we know all that. We just want to know about whether what he said in his letter, where he said, for all time, we're going to have to go back, here, will be at all times available for the purposes of science. That's all I wanted to check. I'm going to ask, are they available? I'm so cheeky, aren't I? Are they available at all times? I'm going to make a bet. No, they are not available to the public at all times. Well, I'm sorry, that is a breach. That's a breach. At the end of the day, I know, I'm not being very realistic, am I? Of course they can't be available at all times. Realistically, it's too expensive. Here we go. While the text you quoted from the 19th century promised they would be at all times available for the purposes of science, in a modern context, here we go. This is where we get gaslit. This translates to restricted scientific access rather than general public viewing. I'm sure it does. I'm sure that's what happens. Here is how availability works for the Gould specimens today. Here we go. Oh my goodness, they're not even on permanent display. For the general public visitors, you cannot simply walk into the museum galleries and see the Gould birds. Because they are 150-year-old organic specimens, they are extremely light-sensitive and fragile. Well, aren't I the ignorant one? Of course. They wouldn't be able to be kept in glass cases in a public hall. It would cause them to fade and deteriorate. So my public indignation is so misplaced and ignorant, I take it all back. Okay, occasional exhibitions. The Academy does occasionally put specific Gould items on display for special temporary exhibits or treasures rotations. Oh, at least they call them that. But this is the exception, not the rule. Ooh, virtual access. You can view many of the specimen records and data through the Academy's online databases and the Visual Resources for Ornithology, Vireo, image collection. For the purposes of science, by appointment only. True to Dr. Wilson's original intent, the collection is available for scientific study, but only by formal request. Qualified access. Professional ornithologists, taxonomists, and graduate students must apply for access to the research collection. Okay, fair enough, I guess. They usually visit the Ornithology Department research vaults to examine the skins under controlled conditions. Loans. The Academy also facilitates science by loaning specimens to other major museums worldwide for research, though type specimens, like many of the Gould birds, are rarely allowed to travel. Okay, well, fair enough. If you plan to visit Philadelphia specifically to see them, contact the Academy of Natural Sciences of Drexel University well in advance to ask about their current behind-the-scenes tour schedule, as this is sometimes the only way for a non-scientist to see the research areas. Well, there you go. You've always got to ask for the behind-the-scenes tour. Brilliant. Okay, now let's move on, because I'm pleased to see I am nearly at the end of the preface. So let's have a go. Here we go. In conclusion, I would beg to say that having brought The Birds of Australia to a close after devoting nearly 10 years to its production, I trust it will be admitted 10 years. I trust it will be admitted that it has been terminated in the same spirit with which it was commenced, and that any errors which may be found will be viewed with leniency when the extent of the work and the difficulty of procuring and arranging so large a mass of materials is taken into consideration. Should my labours, such as they are, merit the approbation of those who have so liberally supported it, my own efforts will be amply repaid. Although the work, and I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm putting it on, but I'm really not. It just comes out. I feel like that's how he was feeling and thinking. But if it's too much, I can change my tone and style to suit you, dear listener. Okay, although, viewer, I don't know what to say. You. It's just you, sweetheart. It's a bit cheeky, isn't it? Okay, I take that back. Although the work comprises every species known to inhabit Australia up to the present time, it is not to be supposed that it contains the whole of the birds of that vast country, of which so large a portion is yet a terra incognita. Oh, wow, this is so beautiful. Every new district towards the northwest that may be explored will doubtless afford additional species, and which may hereafter form the materials for a supplement. I originally northwest. I suppose that means into Northern Territory in Northwest Australia. I originally intended to include the birds of New Zealand in the present work, but upon further investigation of the subject, I found that they belong to a distinct fauna, which fact, coupled with the vast accession of new species from the continent of Australia, induced me to omit all but those that had been published in the first instance, and one or two others remarkable for their great interest. Enjoying, by the blessing of Providence, constant good health and energies as yet unimpaired, I propose still to devote my humble efforts to the advancement of ornithology, that science which treats of one of the most pleasing portions of the Almighty's many wonderful works, and with ample materials at my command for illustrating the birds of another magnificent portion of the domains of the British Crown, India, my next work will probably be on the birds of Asia, which will, irrespective of all other considerations, be of no little interest as forming the connecting link between the birds of Europe and the birds of Australia. John Gould, June 12, 1848. Well, my goodness. He's even set up his next product. I mean, he's even whet the appetite for the next product in this preface. This guy he is, say what you want about him, he knows how to do business. He really does. Well, so that's the preface. This is what we read today, and probably shouldn't have taken that long when I look at it. It's not actually that long of a preface, is it? Sorry, I didn't mean to make you dizzy doing that. But that's what I did. I wonder where the first illustration is. I think I'll read the introduction in the next video. See, that was me learning from John Gould. So I'll set you up for the next video. Oh, I think I need to pause what's going on here. It's too much. I'm giving away too much. Okay, I'm just going to it's going to be a random thing. Oh, there's one. Should I try to zoom in on that? I don't know if it'll make it bigger. Oops. Nope, that just flipped down the page. Ooh, came across another bird. Well, What say? Oh. Oh. I'm giving things away, aren't I? What say I stop now and let you tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. I'll obviously have to work out the thumbnail and the title because I didn't quite finish doing that task. I got distracted. So this was fun. You can download the PDF of this special work on a link I've put in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you really did like this. You might lose me and never find me again if you don't subscribe. And set notifications. That way you'll never miss my videos. It's not a sellout, is it, to say that? I want to help you sleep or relax or learn something or discover the history of Australia and these natural history illustrations. Oh, trust me, we are going to go deep into them. So, yeah, I better stop now. This is getting silly. Okay, thanks for everything. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.